Hello students, welcome to the online classes of physics. Now we are going to learn unit 2 under mechanics, which comes under paper 1 in your semester 1. I am N. Chandana, assistant professor of physics from Government Degree College, Khairtabad. Let us have a quick recap on the previous chapter. What's the chapter which we have learned in the previous classes? That is vector analysis. Okay. So what is a vector we have learned? What is a scalar quantity? What is a vector quantity we have learned? And what are the various properties of vectors? We have learned the addition, operations, addition, subtraction, and we have learned multiplication. And various properties related to these three operations we have learned. That is dot product and cross product. They are the major things we have learned. Next, we have come to theorems based on gradient divergence. We have gradient, divergence, and curl. We have learned these three topics related to vector analysis. Based on these three, we have again line integrals, volume integral, surface integral. Now these three integrals we have learned. Relating these three line integral, volume integral, and surface integrals, we have three theorems. They are Stokes theorem, Green's, and Gauss. So all these three we have learned using these three relations and gradient, divergence, and curl, where dot product and cross product, scalar triple product, and scalar dot product we have learned. Based on these things, we have finished our vector analysis. We have solved some few problems. Okay, now let us go for next topic today. Let me share you the whiteboard and explain you. This is unit 2. We are dealing in unit 2 today. That's unit 2. Main thing is we are going to understand the motion of a particle. Motion of a particle. The basic fundamental thing which you have learned in your intermediate kinematics and dynamics. The same thing, combination of those two you learn here in motion of a particle. See, basing on different observations on Earth, like on Earth, based on different observations, who have made these observations, like Newton and Kepler. These are the major contributors to motion of a particle, to laws of motion. So they have given some laws of motion. What did they observe on Earth? See, Newton has given three laws. Newton's three laws of motion. And then Kepler has given three laws of motion, observing the planetary motion. Planetary motion. That is movement of planets around sun. So this is sun. So he has given the observation, based on the observations on planets' movement around the sun and about themselves. Each planet revolves around itself with respect to its own axis. You know that that's called spinning. At the same time, it rotates around the sun. Based on these two principles, they have derived, Kepler has derived three laws of planetary motions. Those are called Kepler's laws. And Newton has given three laws of motion. They are called Newton's laws. Okay. Now let us see each of the laws of Newton now. So first law, Newton's first law. Newton's first law. So what did he say is, every body continues to be in the state of rest or in uniform motion until an external force is acted upon the body. Okay. So this is Newton's first law. You know that you have studied in your intermediate also. So what is that meaning? So if you have a body here, every body continues to be in the state of rest. It is at rest now. The body is of mass m. Now the body is at rest. That is at this position. At this position. This is O. If I take it O, the body is at O. The ball is at O. That means it is not in a moment, right? It is not in a motion. That means the velocity is 0. So velocity is 0. Hence, we can say that the body is at rest now. Rest. See, unless you apply some force on it, the body will be at the same position. At same position at this point, right? But when I supply some energy, like I have applied some force, F, then what happens? The body starts moving in this direction. If I consider it's a linear force acting on it, linear motion. So the body gets displaced and it has come and it has retained here. Now it got displaced from this point O to A. This means there is some force acting on it which made this body to move from this place to this place, right? So until this force has acted, the body remained at O, right? That means until and unless an external force is applied on this body, the body continues to be in the state of rest, right? If in the other case, now my body, this small sphere I'm taking, this body is moving with velocity to 20 meter per second. 20 meter per second. At this point of time, if I consider, again I will calculate after here, after the body travels here also, at any place I'm taking the average velocity is 20 meter per second. Average velocity is 20 meter per second. Okay, this bodies will continue to be in the state of 20 meter per second. Okay. Now, if you want to stop this ball, now I put a obstacle here. I put an obstacle here. I put a wall here. Then this obstacle or any stopper I have put here. Now this ball comes to its rest position, or else it hits this and it oscillates for some time to and fro motion, and again it has come to rest. See, now the body's velocity has come from 20 meter per second to suddenly 0. Because of I have stopped it. That means I have applied some external force using this ball. Or else other thing you can do. You can apply now force as you have done before, F, external force, in linear motion. Then this body again accelerates, it gets accelerated. That means the velocity will become more now. Velocity changes from 20 to either it increases to 25 now. That means the velocity got changed. See, the body is in 20 meter per second only, is continuously in the motion with velocity 20 meter per second only until you have applied an external force F, right? Similarly, the body is continued to be at the rest position until you have applied a force F. So this is the Newton's first law. Okay, that means the body, any body continues to be in the state of rest or in the uniform motion in a straight line unless an external force acts on it. External force acts on it. If at all there is no external force, F is 0, that means the body would have stayed back, right back here at O. And here also the body would have traveled with the same constant average velocity 20 meter per second. Okay. So this is the first law. Or else this law is, other name is law of inertia. Law of inertia. Law of inertia. Inertia. Okay, inertia means the body hesitates to move. Okay, because when you're applying external force, it is reluctant to change it in its present state. That means it's not it's not at all willing to go to the other state. Like it is always want to be in the same state of motion. This is called law of inertia. Newton's first law is called law of inertia. This phenomena is called inertia. This phenomena is called inertia. Okay, this phenomenon is called inertia. Now, in order to describe this, so Newton's first law is this one. Now you understood. You know, in order to understand this principle, that's Newton's first law, we have lots of phenomena, lots of examples you have undergone in your intermediate, like when you sit in a bus attached to a seat here. You're there in this bus attached to a seat here. So once the bus starts, now you're at rest. Now when the bus starts suddenly, this is the bus. Okay. Now if you think that your bus got started suddenly, here your driver is sitting somewhere here, he's having steering here. Now your bus started suddenly. Okay. Suddenly your bus got started now on this road. Now what happens? Till now you're at rest position. Okay, now your bus got suddenly started. So that what is your body is going to do now? Now you just tend towards backward. Like your body will move backward. Okay, your head will come back. Why? Because till now you are at rest. So your body want to be at rest in the same position. But you, because of this bus started, engine started, so you are forcefully you're moving your body with you attached to this bus. Your body is attached to this bus. So forcefully your body is moving with this bus. Okay. Now you feel that you'll just give a jerk in your body that you'll go backward a little bit when suddenly the engine got start. Similarly, when you're continuously moving in the bus, suddenly the bus got stopped. Suddenly the bus goes stopped. What happens? Now you tend to move forward. Move a little bit forward and you'll come to your rest. Why you're moving forward? You're not moving forward willingly. Is there any something in front of you to watch it? You're moving forward? No. Because suddenly the bus got to its rest position. What happens? Your velocity, your body, which is attached to this bus, will suddenly tries to stop you. But your trunk is heady, your head, what does it do? Your head is free out of this bus, like it is free, no? Now what happens? Your head, how it would move now? Because already you're continuously moving with some 20 meters per second. So your head wants to move again with 20 meters per second, but your body has come to rest with respect to the bus. So what happens? Your trunk will move a little bit forward and again you'll come back to a normal position. Okay, so that is the reason we have this thing. This is called inertia. This is a perfect example for inertia you have learned in your intermediate first year. So we need a set of coordinate axes to any body to describe the phenomena observed. So now if I want to observe, I am standing here somewhere on the side of this road. This is road here. My bus is going this way. Somewhere here you are there, other side of the road. Now I am observing here. I'll observe that all are traveling with equal velocity of the bus. So whatever the bus is moving with the same velocity, the driver is moving with the same velocity, the passengers are moving. Because the bus velocity will be because they are attached to the bus, right? So they are also moving with the same velocity. I am observing through my frame of reference. Through my frame of reference, this is a moving object. Now you are sitting somewhere here in this bus. You're sitting here in this bus. Now for you, this bus is moving here. Okay. For you, this bus is at rest because you're also moving with the same velocity as the bus. Right? But for you, I am moving. I am moving. You're moving forward. So for you, how I'll be moving? I'll be moving this way. For you, I appear that I'll move towards the opposite direction in which you are moving in the bus because of law of inertia. Because it is we are observing through some other frame of reference, and here you are observing through some other frame of reference, and I am observing through different frame of reference. With respect to your frame, you are moving with bus, so bus frame is your frame. So you are at rest, and this passenger is at rest. Driver is also at rest with respect to you. But as bus is moving, and bus velocity is your velocity, driver's velocity, and your friend's velocity for me, because I am at rest here. I am observing from this frame of reference. So to observe anything, to observe any quantity, okay, to define any phenomena, a set of coordinate axes are to be taken up. Set of coordinate axes are to be described. Okay, what is the set of coordinate axis is called? Reference frame. What is this called? Reference frame. Okay, or else a frame of reference is said to be inertial when this in this frame all the Newton's laws are valid. When all Newton's laws are valid, then this frame of reference can be called as inertial frame of reference. Let me discuss this topic a little bit later, because I want to go for Newton's second law, Newton's third law now. So this is called inertial frame of reference. Okay. Now let me go for Newton's second law. Newton's second law. So Newton's first law is called as law of inertia. Now go for Newton's second law. Okay. On basis of this law, we understand the relation between force and acceleration. Force and acceleration. We know acceleration is rate of change of velocity, dv by dt, and force, the applied force on a body. Then the body will move with an acceleration a. When if I consider a body of mass m, okay. Now if I apply force, sectional force F, the body moves with an acceleration a, then what is the relation between F and this a? That is given by Newton's second law. F is equal to ma bar, or m into a is dv by dt, where v is velocity of the body which we are taking, on a particle. Okay, v is a vector, F is a vector, v is a vector, m is the mass. So vector I am representing, acceleration is a vector, you already know that. So I'm representing it with this bar, F bar. Now what happens now? That is equal to d of mv by dt. This is F bar. F bar is equal to d of mv by dt, right? Because m is constant, I can take it inside. So what is d of mv? That is, mv is momentum. So dp bar by dt. This is nothing but F bar. Okay. What is called dp? What is p? Linear momentum. P equal to linear momentum mv. Okay, students. So the product of mass by its acceleration is always a function on its position of the body related to its surroundings. Okay, which can be represented by function of velocity, that is dv by dt, or else function of dp by dt, that is linear momentum dp by dt. So we can say that the rate of change of momentum is nothing but, linear momentum is force. Rate of change of momentum is nothing but force. Okay. Now, if I have, according to Newton's first law, when F is 0 implies A is, see, according to Newton's first law, until and unless external force is applied, the body will be continuous to be in the state of rest, or with constant velocity, right? So when F is 0, that means external force is 0, I'll write A bar will be what? 0, because F equal to ma. That means ma equal to 0 implies A equal to 0. So F is equal to 0 implies A is equal to 0. See, this law is satisfied here using first law is proved by using second law. Okay. So in this words, we can say that when there is no external force or absence of a net force, the body will move with constant velocity, or it will be at rest, which is Newton's first law. Okay. Newton's first law. See, Newton's law also, second law also provides in comparing the masses. Okay, like if we have mass m1 a1, it is F. And now for other body m2 a2, if I have again F, then what happens? I can write it as m1 a1 equal to m2 a2. So I can directly give the ratio m1 by m2 is equal to a2 by a1. So the ratio of masses of the two bodies is always equal to the ratio of the inverse of the accelerations. That is, m is inversely proportional to a. M is inversely proportional to acceleration. Okay, this can be given by this Newton's second law. Newton's second law gives you force acting on a particle or acting on a body. Okay, so this key also proves the Newton's first law. Now let me give you one. Next, after third law, let us give me one example. Next, third law, Newton's third law. So what does this law say? See, the force acting on a body will be arised only because of the result of its interaction with another body surrounding it. Right? See, whenever a body exerts a force on a second body, let me take this is M1, this is M2. Okay, this is 1, this is 2. Whenever one body exerts a force on a second body, that is, this is exerting a force on this body, the second body always exerts on the first body, which is equal in magnitude but opposite in direction, right? In the same line of action. Like now, because this is exerting a body force on this body, second body will exert a force on the first body. Okay? But in this direction, right? But from first body to second body, the force is exerted in this direction. Okay, opposite direction now. But they're on the same line of action. Same line of action. The line joining these two body center of mass is called line of action. Okay. These forces are called as first body is showing an action. It is acting on. It is showing an action to the second body. It's acting on it. So the second body is equally reacting to the action which the first body has created on it. It is reaction. So the first force is called as F12. That is because of 1 on 2 equal to F21. That is second body on 1. This is reaction. This is action. Reaction is F21. Action is F12. They're always opposite. Equal and opposite. Okay. This property of forces was stated by Newton. Okay. And this was called as Newton's third law. Or else we can give in the other form, to every action there is always an equal and opposite reaction. To every action there is always an equal and opposite reaction. So this is nothing but F12, to every action there is always an equal and opposite reaction. Equal but opposite, that is equal is there but there is negative sign here, and opposite reaction. Okay. For example, if you consider a table, okay, now you have a table here, which is on a, which is here is a table. Okay. Now I have okay, this is the table. Now I have a book on this table. See, this book will remain there if I think that this body is at rest now. Okay. Now what is happening? The book is exerting a force on this. Similarly, this table is exerting a force on this book in upward direction, while the book is exerting force in the downward direction. Now the boost, these both are in equal and opposite direction. That is the reason the force acts on the table, and the force acting by the on the book, both are same and equal. So that is the reason it stays back here, and this can be an example of equal action and reaction. reaction. Okay. This is a perfect example for this. Even rocket is a perfect example, because rocket, in the motion of rocket, what happens if you take a rocket? It exerts. If I have a rocket, exerts some pressure outward by using those gases, effluent gases. Okay, because of these gases are coming out of downward direction, it this gives an upward thrust onto the rocket, such that the rocket will move upward. Okay, these gases are showing outward direction, which because of this force of these gases coming out, there will be a reaction here. The action will be done by these gases, so that the reaction will be given by this rocket in upward direction. Okay, with the same equal and opposite force, the rocket will move in the upward direction. So this is a perfect example for Newton's third law. Okay, so now we have first law, second law, and third law. So all the three laws we have seen. This is law of inertia, this is F equal to ma, and here every action has equal and opposite reaction. Now we'll see inertial frame of reference. I already told you inertial frame of reference. So what is inertial frame of reference, students? We should have a system, or else a frame of reference need to be there to describe any object moving. Any object which is in motion can be studied using a frame of reference. Okay, this frame of reference can be taken as a coordinate axis. This frame of reference can be taken as coordinate axis. Okay, coordinate axis related to which the motion of the object may be described. See, related to this frame of reference, we can describe the motion of the object here. If I have an object here, if I have a ball here, so I can describe the motion of this object using this frame of reference. This type of frame of reference is called inertial frame of reference only when all the Newton's laws are valid in this frame of reference. Okay, in this frame of reference, all the Newton's laws are valid. Then such type of frame of reference is said to be inertial frame of reference. Okay, so what are the properties of inertial frame of reference is when no external force is acting on this body, the body moves with same uniform velocity as that of the frame. See, this is Newton's first law itself, right? Okay. Now, the other name of inertial frame of reference is, another name is Galilean frames. Galilean frames of references. Galilean frames of references. And also, see here, what are non-inertial frames which does not obey the Newtonian laws of mechanics? They are Newton's first, second, and third laws. Such type of frames of reference are said to be Newton's, non-inertial frames of reference. But here, inertial frames of reference, we have all the Newton's laws are valid. Okay, valid, they are observed. Such type of frames are called inertial frames of reference. Okay, students. So far we have learned these topics. So let me go to the PPT. See, now summary, we have done Newton's three laws, 1, 2, and 3 we have learned. And then we have come to frames of reference. I have told you what is inertial frame of reference and what is non-inertial frame of reference. So to observe a system or a motion of an object, we need to set up a frame of reference. If I have an object here, M, okay, here, where is the position of the object now? How can you tell? By the coordinates X, Y, and Z, the position coordinates. And also the time coordinates will include later, 4 coordinates will include. So based on this X, Y, Z, the position of the particle can be explained. Of mass M, the particle's position P can be explained. from this frame of reference. This is one of the frame of reference. If I have one more frame of reference, which is moving with some velocity here, this direction, okay, same axis, x-axis are the same, but y-axis and z-axis are different because this one is moving in the forward direction towards x, parallel to the x direction, right, along the x direction. So then what would be this coordinates now for the position of P from this will change. It won't be no more P. It will be again P dash because the coordinates have changed. Now this is not the origin. Here this is the origin now, O dash. So this is the way from different frames of reference we can have different positions of the particle. Similarly, size can be observed in different fashion. Velocity can be in the opposite direction in this way based on the frame of reference which we take. So we have two types of frames of reference, inertial and non-inertial, where Newton's laws are valid here and Newton's laws are not valid in non-inertial frame of reference. Okay. So in the next class, let me go for system of variable mass and motion of rocket, which is a perfect example for Newton's third law. Let me go for those concepts. Okay. So thank you, students. Thank you for your patience listening. Thank you so much. Take care.